compromise. And the department went ahead and passed that through. I didn't actually pass the statute. So usually when you're starting with legislation, you should come to a starting point, or you start at one place knowing that it's going to change. So I was just, it actually came, there's another bill that did a number of industries, and so I took a couple from that and wrote the bill, knowing that there would probably be changes to it.
Yeah. I was at that first hearing. There was quite a big showing. And I think probably, you know, when these bills are designed, sometimes it's not thought about the unintended consequences.
Well, I look at it this way, like there's always a push to license home inspectors in the state, and I'm absolutely opposed to doing something like that because it restricts freedom for the consumer. All right, I'm a contractor. If I wanted to bring another contractor along just to look the house over and maybe pay him a few bucks to do it, it would make it illegal. So I know when I'm doing that, I know I'm not getting a certified home inspector. But what it does is it restricts freedom for the individual who doesn't necessarily want that. The consumer will often know that they're not going to have that kind of protection. So that's really where the idea comes from.
Okay.
Same thing with like child care facilities. You can choose to send your child to a licensed child care facility, or you can choose to pay a 14-year-old to watch your kids. I think the consumers know that when they're hiring a 14-year-old that they're not licensed by the state, and I think they know what they're getting when they do something like that.
Should we then have a discussion of what the market will look like without this regulation? Because we can go down the list of what will transpire. Should there not be licensing?
Well, I was never in favor of removing licensing because consumers may want that protection, but at the same time,
it will devalue our licenses.
That's what it
I
is.
heard some comments over the weekend by some people that were talking about the money they had invested in their education to be in this industry. They felt like you were telling them their education was worthless.
Well,
Some of them even
I think that
some of them even wanted to know why they should pay back their loans if this law was signed.
Well, if you think that the education is only good for a license, then I would say the schools are not doing their job. I paid a lot of money to get an education. There was no license requiring that because I thought it would there'd be an added benefit there.
Well, we're happy to have the discussion.
So
we're happy to have a discussion of the results of our training for our students. You can go look at the state board records of state board.
Because what I'm hearing from you is the only reason the schools exist is because of the license, which I would think that would be false because I would think that
You're misunderstanding.
I did not say those words.
I can appreciate the free market. I own a business, so I understand that. And I can tell you that I would not hire a licensed haircut or cosmetologist or barber. I would not hire one.
Right.
So if you were trying to create jobs, then it's not going to work. In some areas, it's going to eliminate them, as getting jobs because they're not licensed. I spoke to another colleague of mine with the chamber, and he owns a funeral home, and embalmers are under that as well. And he doesn't seem particularly worried because he won't hire a non-licensed embalmer either.
Right.
So it is all about the free market. But I also think the government has a responsibility to protect the safety of the constituents. And then I know the other argument is that you can go through the public court system to get restitution or whatever if you get a bad haircut or get your scalp burned. But our court system's already clogged with so many court cases as it is. And it is a revenue generator. We're the second largest board, or they are the second largest board, just under nurses. And they generate revenue. I think they are pretty autonomous in what they generate through licensing of of schools and individual licensees can generate income. I think that schools they have pretty minimum standards right now in terms of school licensure, or school training as it is. I wouldn't like to see hours reduced because I hired them right out of school and they're just learning the basics, and there's a lot of training that goes on and beyond. And those that are really professional and into their industry, they're going to seek out additional training. Just like in a lot of other professions, there's a seminar or something like that. Do you have tips from my experience or background that you can answer for you?
I don't think that I think I got most of my questions answered.
Question.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Yeah, I understand that you want to do this to try to, or save money for the government, but I think whenever you're dealing with public health and safety, that the last thing we want to interfere with is the public health and safety and trying to save money with ourselves, our kids. I think that, there's other ways to save money, going after professions that are dealing with blood and chemicals. I think the licenses was implemented for a reason. Maybe Mueller first brought this up and thought this out for the barbers, and there's a reason why that it needs to be regulated, and there's a reason why that people need to go to schools and learn. We're not open just to make money or to just get a license for someone. We're here to educate them. We have to let them know what they're getting into. We have to let them know what the big picture is. Why is it important that you have to certain way to clean blood spills? Why is it important when you're doing a haircut and you drop a comb on the floor that you don't stop and pick it up and receive back? I think in the world that we're living in now, and I don't see it getting any better, but the world that we're living in now deals a lot with, there's so many bacteria and germs that there's nothing to fight it off. And when you start putting people out here that are not educated in this or that don't have a license in this, you're opening doors for a lot more other things. And I hate to live in a state, and call the state of Missouri my home, where we take something away like this, but then we end up having one of the biggest epidemics. And yeah, we're trying to find a way to save money and be a spearhead for other states and see, hey, we did this. We took barbering from beauticians away. You guys can do this to save money in your state. But then 5 years later, there's an epidemic coming from our state that spills over to the neighboring states, Illinois, Kansas, Oklahoma. And then we're at the problem where it started from here. So I think there's many other ways that we can balance this budget and just within time, but going after barbers, beauticians, embalmers, you're dealing with stuff that people really need to be educated, and we kind of need to keep that in place the way it is and don't mess it up.
I'm Susan Belanger. I hold 3 licenses in the industry in Missouri. I'm a cosmetologist and instructor in a school owner. I know you don't want to talk about 590 too much, but really that's why we're here. And if you're looking for changes so that you can push this bill through, one change that I would recommend is taking the cosmetology barbering industry completely out of that bill. We are grouped in with, like you said, painters, landscapers, the other industries that are mentioned in that bill. And none of those other industries are in direct contact with the public. They don't touch people. They don't put chemicals on people. They don't put the health and safety of the public at risk in their professions. So if you want to push this bill through, then take the cosmetology and barbering industry out of it. That's the change that you can make.
Transform barber. I just had a question. It looks like both of you guys do haircuts. Honestly, it's funny, but it's serious.
No, it's true.
I honestly wanted to know, do you guys go to shop? You go to a barber shop?
No.
You do not, do you?
Your wife does, right?
Have you let somebody shave on your face with a razor before in your life? Have you let somebody?
I've only done it myself.
I'm saying,
Yeah,
the
that's
point
why you
is,
don't
there's a certain angle that you have to hold the razor
Well, would you?
when you shave somebody. And I was asking, I wanted to ask, would you trust these people? These people know. They know the right angle to hold the razor. If you don't hold it the right way, you're gonna cut somebody's face right open. I'm pretty sure somebody, somebody uses a razor to shave maybe once in their life.
To expand on that, I mean, not necessarily even just the idea of holding a razor at a certain angle. There's a lot of factors that you got to take into play, like high blood pressure. When you pump somebody up, you put them in that chair, you lay them back, you put a hot towel on their face. You got to think, someone has high blood pressure, that blood is rushing to their face whenever you put that hot towel on their face, whenever you pump them up, whenever you lay them back. And there's a possibility of not knowing these things. That's part of your analysis is whenever you enter, when someone first sits down in the chair, most people think the idea of sitting down, hey, how you doing? Okay, let's do this. Okay, cool, let's go and do it. No. There's certain questions and certain things that need to be taken into account in order for you to proceed with any kind of service and being able to have the knowledge to be able to deny a service.
Let's let him finish.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
well, he
finished
came
it.
Hey, that's my classmate, Harold.
we came from the same school, so we got the same beliefs, but just honestly, common sense, you would rather trust somebody with a license that's been educated than to go let anybody else, cut on the face or whatever.
I would just like to echo what the woman said a minute ago, that's the biggest change you can make to this bill is to eliminate those professions that actually have human contact. And I can see where interior designers and painters and home inspectors and all that, they're not touching people. It'll make the consumers have to be more aware of what they're buying, buyer beware. But in terms of our industry, and we keep beating the dead horse. I know that there's safety concerns there. So to change the bill, I would like to echo what she said. And
Outside of the health industry, we are one of the only industries that's allowed to touch the public. And that in itself requires some type of training. We don't belong in this bill.
Anybody else?
Just kind of listen, I know it's retarded, apologize about that, but just listen to everybody. I think one of the biggest causes and effects, from understanding a lot of what was going on, seems like economics is kind of one of the biggest problems. It seems like, considering a lot of things that you guys are thinking or taking into consideration when it comes to the profession, there will be a lot of money that we can kind of, I guess you could say, transfer it to another area, which is nobody has proper training when it comes to glaze or any kind of transfusions or any kind of diseases can spread. It seems like there would be a lot of problems when it comes to government funded hospitals. If I'm, I guess I would be considered unemployed if I'm a non-licensed barber, that make me unemployed, would that just make me somebody that's practicing art or one hobby? I don't know if that would essentially do the job, but I guess I'm assuming that they would be unemployed, then they would have to more than likely probably go to a government funded hospital or something if they're needed, some kind of surgery, whether it's, a lot of pressure. So it seems like with the economics, of it, it really wouldn't be wise to take away the barrier that's needed to properly train and implement the direction for what barbering, advertising, a lot of other things come that way. I didn't even know if I'm part of it, but that's, it seems like it's a lot of variables just touching. I don't know what else to discuss here, but I'm still here right now.
Real quick, I think some of the things like when you guys talked about consumers being able to choose and which people go to school anyway, I think, and there's probably a lot of people in this room that, there was one gentleman earlier that said he used to dabble in haircutting before he went to school, and I think there's a lot of people that don't really know until they go through it. And everybody's got this idea that they can do hair. My grandma taught me, my mom taught me, that's how I grew up, but I still went to school. And things that she didn't teach me, that's what I learned in school. So I think, I mean, there's a lot of people, I could say in here that cut probably before they went to school.
See, that's one thing I see as problematic. Because then either A, the law's not being enforced.
It's trying to be, but